Ever wondered how the fun and spooky holiday of Halloween came to be? Well, let's journey back in time about 2,000 years ago to the lands of the ancient Celts. These folks, who resided in the area that is now Ireland, the United Kingdom, and northern France, celebrated their new year on November 1st. This day marked the end of the harvest season and the beginning of the cold, dark winter, a time of year that was often associated with human death. The Celts believed that on the night before the new year, the boundary between the worlds of the living and the dead became blurred. So, on the eve of October 31st, they celebrated Samhain, when it was believed that the ghosts of the dead returned to Earth. Spooky, isn't it? The presence of these otherworldly spirits was both an omen and an opportunity. The Celts thought that the ghostly visitors would cause trouble and damage crops, but also that their presence made it easier for the Druids or Celtic priests to predict the future. In a world dependent on the unpredictable natural world, these prophecies were an important source of comfort and direction during the long, dark winter. To commemorate this event, the Druids built huge sacred bonfires where people gathered to burn crops and animals as sacrifices to the Celtic deities. During the celebration, the Celts wore costumes, typically consisting of animal heads and skins, and attempted to tell each other's fortunes. So there you have it. The ancient festival of Samhain, with its bonfires, costumes, prophecies, and the blurring of the world of the living and the dead, laid the foundation of what we know as Halloween today. It's fascinating how a ritual from a long-gone era has managed to survive and morph into a beloved holiday celebrated by millions around the world. So, the roots of Halloween trace back to the ancient Celts. But how did it evolve into what we know today? Well, stay tuned to find out. As the Romans conquered Celtic territories, they left their own imprint on the Samhain festival. When the Romans set foot on Celtic lands around the 1st century AD, they brought with them not only their military prowess, but also their cultural traditions. As the two cultures interacted, a fusion of customs began to take shape, altering the original Samhain celebration. One of the Roman traditions that blended with Samhain was the festival of Feralia. Observed in late October, Feralia was a time when Romans commemorated the passing of the dead. It was a solemn occasion, marked by offerings to appease the spirits of deceased ancestors. This ritual of remembering the dead resonated with the Celts' Samhain tradition, where it was believed that the veil between the living and the dead was thinnest. Then there was Pomona, the Roman goddess of fruit and trees. The Romans dedicated a day to honor Pomona, and it's worth noting that her symbol was the apple. Now, you might be wondering, what does this have to do with Halloween? Well, there's a possibility that our fun tradition of apple bobbing originated from this very Roman celebration. Imagine this, a festival honoring the goddess of fruit, particularly apples, intertwining with a Celtic celebration already rich in supernatural elements. Over time, the act of bobbing for apples could have evolved as a form of divination, a way to predict future relationships and prosperity. So the Romans, in their conquest, did more than expand their empire's borders. They inadvertently influenced a festival that would continue to evolve and endure for more than 2 millennia. Through the fusion of Feralia's remembrance of the dead and Pomona's apple symbolization, the Romans added new layers to the Samhain festival, enriching it with their own cultural flavors. Thus, the original Celtic celebration started acquiring new dimensions. The influence of the Romans marked a significant turn in the evolution of what we now know as Halloween, illustrating how cultures can blend and reshape traditions across time and space. With the spread of Christianity, the old pagan festival underwent further transformations. As the Christian faith gained traction, it began to intermingle with existing pagan traditions, leading to a fusion of customs and beliefs. This mingling was particularly evident in the celebration of Samhain, the ancient Celtic festival marking the end of harvest season and the onset of winter. As Christianity spread, the church sought to replace pagan festivals with Christian observances. One such attempt led to the designation of November 1st as All Saints' Day, also known as All Hallows. This day was set aside to honor all saints and martyrs, regardless of whether they had their own feast day or not. But what about the eve of All Hallows? Well, the night before, which was traditionally the night of Samhain, began to be called All Hallows' Eve. Over time, this name would evolve, and the celebration itself would morph into the holiday we know today. On All Hallows' Eve, people would pay their respects to the saints and martyrs, many lighting candles and placing them on graves. It was a solemn observance, a far cry from the revelry of Samhain. However, some of the old traditions persisted, blending with the new Christian practices. For instance, the practice of guising, where people would dress up and go door to door, often in exchange for food or coins, has its roots in both Samhain and All Hallows' Eve. In the Christian context, this was often done in remembrance of the souls in purgatory. But it also echoes the Samhain tradition of impersonating the Aos Sai, or spirits, to receive offerings on their behalf. This fusion of old and new, pagan and Christian, reflects the cultural shifts of the time. It's a testament to how traditions can adapt and evolve, taking on new meanings while still retaining echoes of their origins. So we see how the old and the new started to meld into the Halloween we're more familiar with. This blending of traditions, of the sacred and the supernatural, continues to shape our celebrations today, giving us the rich tapestry that is Halloween. How did Halloween make its way from Europe to America, you ask? Well, it all started with the waves of Irish and English immigrants in the mid-19th century. Fleeing the potato famine and seeking a new life, they brought with them their customs and traditions, including the celebration of All Hallows' Eve. The Irish and English immigrants, with their stories of jack-o'-lanterns, witches and ghouls, began to share their traditions with their new neighbors. Initially, these traditions were met with intrigue and curiosity, but soon enough, they started to gain popularity. Halloween began to evolve from a superstitious and religious event in Europe to a community-centered celebration in America. By the late 19th century, Halloween had become a widely celebrated holiday in the United States. But it wasn't quite the Halloween we know today. It was more of a public event where neighbors would gather for ghost stories, mischief, and dancing. There were even large public Halloween parties that were the social event of the season. However, as the 20th century approached, there was a shift in how Halloween was celebrated. The focus moved away from ghost stories and pranks to more family-friendly activities. Communities began organizing parties that were safe and fun for children and adults alike. Games became a staple at these parties. Bobbing for apples, pin the tail on the donkey, and fortune-telling games were all part of the Halloween fun. Food also played a significant role with treats like candied apples, popcorn balls, and of course pumpkin pie. And let's not forget the costumes. Inspired by the Irish and English traditions of dressing up to ward off evil spirits, Americans embraced the idea of dressing up for Halloween. Over time, the costumes evolved from scary ghouls and witches to a variety of characters, both spooky and fun. This transition from a public event to a community-centered, family-friendly holiday set the stage for the Halloween we know today. It's a night of fun and festivity, a night where we can let our imaginations run wild and embrace the spirit of the supernatural. This brings us to the modern-day celebration of Halloween. Halloween has truly become a global phenomenon. Its evolution has been marked by a series of twists and turns, each one adding a new layer to the celebration as we know it today. In the heart of Halloween's appeal today is its commercialization. Businesses have found a goldmine in the holiday with everything from costumes to candy, decorations to party supplies and even themed merchandise. It's an economic boon with billions of dollars spent annually worldwide. And then we have the traditions that have become synonymous with Halloween. Trick-or-treating, a custom that harks back to the Middle Ages, has children dressing up in costumes and going door to door asking for treats with the phrase, trick or treat. The trick part of this phrase is a threat to perform mischief on the homeowners or their property if no treat is given. We also see the prevalence of jack-o'-lanterns, carved-out pumpkins with a light inside. Their origins can be traced back to an Irish myth about a man named Jack who, after deceiving the devil several times, was forbidden entrance into both heaven and hell. He was condemned to wander the earth, waving his lantern to lead people away from their paths. Costume parties are another highlight of Halloween. These parties have their roots in the Celtic tradition of dressing up as evil spirits. The Celts believed that by disguising themselves they could avoid being recognized by the actual spirits wandering the earth during Samhain. Now, let's not forget the profound impact of movies and pop culture. Horror films in particular have played a significant role in shaping Halloween's current image. The success of films like Halloween, Friday the 13th, and Nightmare on Elm Street has not only popularized the genre, but also influenced the types of costumes worn. From ancient Samhain to modern Halloween, the journey is indeed fascinating. Halloween today is a blend of ancient customs, religious observances, and modern commercialism. It's a testament to how traditions can evolve, adapt, and survive through centuries, even as the world around them changes. So there you have it, an in-depth look into the history of Halloween. We've journeyed from its Celtic origins, through the Roman influences, into the Christian interventions. We've sailed across the Atlantic to witness its Americanization and marveled at its evolution into the globally celebrated phenomenon it is today. Next time you carve a pumpkin or go trick-or-treating, remember the incredible history that shaped this beloved holiday. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.